What's up, amazing entrepreneurs? Welcome to today's video, and I'm super excited because I'm joined here with Tom and Alex from The Honest Entrepreneurs, and we're going to be diving into Amazon product launch and a really, really cool story. And I'll let you guys kind of introduce yourself here. But I had the pleasure of actually meeting Alex in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Seems like not too long ago, but it was like a couple months ago. And amazing team. And they've done some really incredible things, especially somewhat recently, and are kind of starting to make a buzz in the Amazon FBA space. So, of course, had to have them on, and we're going to try to get as much value out of you guys as possible relating to Amazon product launches, PPC, maybe some Google ads, whatever that looks like, just kind of the biggest drivers of your success. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
No worries.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. And Tom, I know this is the first time of us kind of meeting, so it's kind of great to meet you here as well. So, just as kind of a little bit of
I've been
background.
watching you, by the way. I've been watching your travels on Instagram.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of like one of our side businesses. And of course, like our Amazon side kind of funds all of that. And we're trying to build that up to, actually generate some substantial income. But yeah, that's awesome. And nice. So I'm going to learn a little bit about you guys. So I know you guys kind of work together. You have, either one or multiple kind of Amazon FBA brands or private label brands. So if you would kind of give us a little bit of background, kind of when did you guys get started with Amazon? How did you guys ultimately, kind of like partner together, or what kind of got you in initially? And talk about kind of where you started and then kind of where you are now, which I think is a pretty cool story.
Yeah, so I originally started Amazon probably just under 3 years ago. I was living in Spain, in Barcelona at the time, and I actually started selling on Amazon Spain, which at the time I thought was a good decision, but in hindsight probably wasn't. I kind of did it on my own for like 12 months, and then Tom and I were friends before that, and we were always chatting about business, and Tom was doing a few things. He was always like, I noticed he was like super entrepreneurial, so I basically one day was like, would you like to like join me and try and grow this brand that I had at the time? We ended up taking that brand into the UK. Long story short is that brand, we ended up sort of selling out all of the stock and like closing it down. We made a little bit of money, but it didn't really go too well. But around the same time when Tom came on board, we were like, we could start up a second brand in the US. So we basically did some research in the US. We launched our first product, and then that ended up becoming the brand that we've now taken to like 6 figures a month now, basically. So that's the primary brand that we have. It's the only brand that we have at the moment. But yeah, that's kind of the summary of it. Is I was doing it alone and then partnered up with Tom, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, basically, I saw a bit of success basically, and I was intrigued straight away because there's not that many entrepreneurial people, or there wasn't in our kind of circle at the time in Barcelona. So that kind of drew me to what he was doing. And then when COVID when the lockdown hit properly, kind of went all in on learning the ropes and trying to catch up to where Alex was in terms of his skill set with Amazon. And then a few months later, August I think it was 2020, we launched this brand. And then like Alex said, it's kind of gone from strength to strength, especially in the last about 6 months. It's really taken off.
Yeah, that's because I follow you guys, and I remember when we met in like Buenos Aires, kind of talking about, oh, here's where we're at now, and then like right at that time and kind of afterwards, like posting on Twitter some of your results and everything. I'm like, what? This is amazing. So yeah, really incredible results. So it was like so you said August, what was it? The time that this brand that you're kind of currently kind of working and scaling really began. Was that August 2020? That was
August. August 2020 was when we launched the first product in this particular brand. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, that's amazing. So really incredible. And what I'm really kind of curious and a huge need that I've seen, and kind of the reason that having you guys on and kind of diving in is specifically with launching kind of new products. So with this kind of brand, so let me ask this and of course, if I ask anything too personal, feel free. I'm not going to get it into too much detail. But this is I know certain sellers will have kind of like multiple brands, or have one brand with multiple products kind of underneath. How do you guys kind of structure this? Is it kind of one main brand, or you kind of have multiple brands and each brand kind of represents maybe a different product type?
Yeah, so it's this was one of the things that when we originally started working together, we were kind of doing product research all over the place, and we were looking at like different niches and different whatever. as soon as we started to focus just on one niche and one customer avatar, which is what we do now. So this brand is it's all in the same niche. It's all the exact same target demographic that's buying our range of products. So yeah, it's all under one brand. We've got, I think, seven products now with a couple of them have got variations, but there's seven. It's generally like the three of them that drive most of the revenue. But yeah, it's all in one niche, all one brand, and that's one thing that we've kind of focused on in the last 6 to 12 months is really we really want to build like a solid brand, because our goal is we're kind of looking at the end of 2024 is we'd like to grow it to a certain point and then sell the brand. So it's been a big part of it for us, is making sure we're consistent with building it as a real brand and not just a bunch of products in all over random markets and random niches, basically.
Yep, totally. It's a big question I get a lot just talking with like a lot of sellers, is kind of that whole dilemma of kind of feeling, and we can touch on that a little bit more, but the difference between like feeling limited of like product research or new opportunities of, if I just stick to one niche, like, it kind of limits me. But I find kind of the opposite, that you can actually find more opportunities. And maybe in your experience, you see a lot of maybe cross-selling opportunities as well. If you with Amazon PPC, targeting, this complementary ASIN of yours with another, and kind of, cross-selling or upselling in that way. So totally understand. And that's similar to what we did. When we started Amazon 2018, we had one kind of like test product that we launched in like this totally separate category, just kind of test, but then moving from there, all the products are completely in like a completely different category, all in the same, but now we have kind of two, but that was kind of like our test product. But yeah, we kind of had the same mindset as well of kind of sticking around a similar niche for a lot of reasons. So, and we can dive into that a little bit more. And awesome.
To be honest, Sumner, we can say like one thing to note for your viewers, like, is we'd love to say like we spotted this opportunity, and like we knew from the very first day that this brand was going to be huge and we go to 6 figures and beyond. But the product that we found to begin with, to be honest, it ticked enough boxes that we were happy to kind of roll the dice with it. And like we pulled the trigger, we released it, and we thought worst case scenario, it'll go okay. Best case, it could go really well. It went really well. And that then made us take a much harder look at that market. Then we realized how big the market could be. And then as soon as we saw that opportunity, we fully focused on it, because this could be bigger than we thought. And that's what's really helped drive it. And you might not necessarily, when you launch your first product on Amazon, it might not be a home run. And that product now, even though it's still live, it's not one of our hero SKUs. It's just a complementary product. But we then found other products within that sub niche, and they're the real drivers for us.
Totally. That's amazing insight. I've seen that a little bit on our end as well. It's very, very interesting. And that's amazing. And if I can ask, are there still, you guys still kind of planning constantly like launching new products? Or are you kind of holding off for now? Or when was kind of the last like new listing that you kind of launched on Amazon? About how long ago was that? Or maybe you're currently in the process.
So the last one we launched 2 new products. It was funny because literally as I was meeting you, I think the day I met you in Buenos Aires was the day that we launched the 2 new products. So I remember I was chatting to you, and you were the first person for a few months that I'd even been and met for a coffee, because all I'd been doing was kind of working. I hadn't been super social. So I was meeting you, and we had this really great conversation about Amazon, because obviously you don't really meet people in person that are doing Amazon. So I remember like we met for like and chatted for like 3-4 hours or whatever it was, and the time flew by. And I remember getting out and then checking my sales and being like, oh shit, the products are going well, and because it was literally that day that we launched them. So that was it February?
I think it was the very end of February, start of March time. So pretty recently, yeah. So we're kind of the end. To be honest, we're still kind of, I guess, in launch phase to an extent. I think the launch phase has got longer and longer now. It used to be, I think even when we first started out, I think it was the first like 2-3 months was the launch phase. I think now, to be honest, in some niches it's more like 5-6 months, and you've really got to you're really trying to solidify your rank. But yeah, we're kind of in that phase now, and then we've got a few new products. We've got some custom products in production at the minute, and we'll be looking to launch them about August, September time.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any kind of, do you have any idea of like, hey, we want to launch this number of products by this date? Or it's kind of like when we see these opportunities, I'm sure there's certain revenue goals that you have by certain dates and things like that. But it kind of like for the near future, like, hey, yeah, we're still in launch phase. We have some more established products. Great, we're running those. We have our newer products that we're still kind of in launch phase, and then we have some in the future that we're in process. So kind of just keep building the business is what it sounds like.
Yeah, so we always have like a product roadmap, even before we saw this, like the big jump up in growth and everything. Like we always had a list of products that we knew we wanted to launch. Obviously, one of the biggest restrictions is like finance. Like if you don't have the cash. But what we did from the very beginning was we planned everything as if we had like $1 million. So like we were kind of like, we want to be doing product research as if we don't have a budget, and then we don't sort of miss any opportunities. But what we've got right now, obviously we don't have $1 million. We've got like, we do have a budget, but we're trying to look at every single product opportunity. So at the moment we've got the short-term plans are to add some more variations to the existing stuff. We're going to launch some variations. We've got some that should be landing in the next few weeks. I think for one of the products, it's kind of just like a multi-pack, and then it's got something else added in there with it. And then we've got one product in development that's actually a custom mold. So one of our products is made from plastic, and we launched that one. It went really well. So we've actually developed like a V2 version of that now. So that's the mold for that is in production right now. And then beyond that, we're looking at, we want to launch at least another 2 to get live before 2023. We're pretty sure what they are. There's one that we think could be really, really big for us. It's going to be a custom mold again, like a custom design, but it's quite a large product, so it's not going to be oversized, but in terms of shipping, it's quite expensive. So we have this roadmap of products. We have ones that we know with short term, like adding the variations. We have ones that are kind of like almost 100% sure we're going to launch, and then we have some that are kind of, we still have to kind of work out if they fit into, if they make sense in terms of the financials, and if they make sense in terms of, budget and all of that sort of stuff. But we always like to have, we've got big goals. We want to take this by this time next year. We want to be doing at least like $300,000 a month. So we work backwards from that. So, what does that look like in terms of number of products? So we kind of have it all mapped out ahead of time.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. And I totally understand that and agree with that. And that's amazing. I appreciate you've been giving a ton of detail. This is amazing. Really, really appreciate that as well. And 2 quick questions that I have kind of about what we discussed so far to kind of dial in a little bit. So number one, obviously this could be a whole video in and of itself, so you don't need to go super in detail, but number one question would be kind of when, analyzing, because I know you kind of have those, certain revenue goals and profit goals and everything, and kind of work backwards from that in terms of, okay, we would need products to be able to do this type of revenue. And in this time frame, which means we would need to, and this is the type of marketing that we use, so blah, blah, blah. But when kind of looking for new product opportunities, whether variations or kind of new listings completely, what are some like of the top things that kind of come to your mind of like, these are very, very important for us when analyzing kind of new product opportunities?
Do you want to take that one, Tom?
I think at this stage now, to be honest, like, because we scaled up to the level we are, I think everything we're looking at now, it's got to have a real growth effect to it. So we want to be moving the goalposts now. So we don't want to add products that might add on kind of like $5,000-$10,000, to be honest. Like, we want to take bigger swings. So we want to see real demand. And because we've got to the point now where we have decent cash flow coming through the business, we can now afford to target these products that are doing 40, 50, 60, 70 plus K a month in revenue. Because when you start out, it's probably a mistake a lot of people make, is they kind of misjudge what their budget can afford. So that's something that we didn't understand it too well, I'd say, right at the start. It's something over the last year that we've really honed in on, and everyone that we kind of work with as well, we teach them this kind of stuff, where I think people it's very easy to look at like a product doing $100,000 a month, and you think, oh, I'll launch the same one because I'll get, maybe I'll do 100K, but to sell 100K of product, you need a hell of a lot of inventory. So that isn't that accessible for most people. So now we're at the level where we can afford it. I think we want to see real drivers. In terms of some stuff with variations, like To be honest, the variation conversation, some people swear by the fact that it's the easiest way to add revenue to your business. We think it depends, to be honest. We think sometimes people can overpopulate with their variations and give kind of too much choice, and people then struggle to make a decision. But it can be kind of quite a good defensive strategy where if you have the top 3 to 5 variations, say for example their colors, then you might cannibalize your sales a little bit, but it's kind of a defensive strategy whereby at least you're keeping the sale in-house rather than it going to a competitor. So they're probably 2 of the main things that we look at.
Yeah, I think that's all brilliant. I have to say I personally agree with all that 100% as well. And that's exactly what a lot of, and you touched on it perfectly. I get this all the time of kind of newer sellers, like brand new to Amazon, no experience. And I'm like, hey, go after a product that does like $5,000 a month or even $2,000 a month. It's like, what? Why? Because that's going to require less inventory that you need. Because the more competitive it is, number one, more inventory to be able to, if you want to be like, if you're going to sell on Amazon, right? You should be the number one, product in your category. That should be your goal, at least, in my opinion. It shouldn't be like, oh, let me get a percentage of sales. Like, no, I want to dominate, right? Even if it takes me some time. So if I want to be the top seller, here's what the top sellers are doing. The inventory needed to be able to kind of compete. And then number 2 is, of course, the marketing budget, Amazon PPC, Google ads, influencer partnerships, Reddit ads, or whatever, to be able to push that up. Both combined, yeah, of course, you need some, a little bit deeper pockets as you kind of continue to scale. So I totally agree with that, and totally understand where you guys are coming from. Like, yep, we kind of start off a little bit, smaller, learn the ropes a little bit, have some good cash flow coming in. Now we have this, this available to kind of push and kind of test with some bigger products. So I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I think, sorry to jump in, Sumner. I think another thing just to add to that is, one of the big things I think people really get wrong is they miscalculate the ROI. I think a lot of people are still, if you watch YouTube, you'll see people say you need a minimum 30% margin, and what people do is they do the product research, they say, okay, I can buy it for X and then I sell it for Y, and their margin might be about 30%, maybe their ROI on the Helium 10 calculator says 95%, and they think, oh, that's a good ROI. In reality, what ends up happening is once they launch it, they do PPC, they get returns, their actual net ROI, the money they get back is like 30, 40%. So what ends up happening is you invest all of this cash and then you don't get the money back into the business fast enough or in a good enough rate. So that was one key thing for us that we now, it probably is the dominant thing that we look at with all of our product research is, can we get, we look for at least 100% like net ROI after PPC. So we look at everything now after, and maybe it's common sense to a lot of people, but I do think we speak to a lot of people that reach out for advice and they show us product ideas and then they show us the numbers. And I'm like, if you launch this, you're going to really struggle to scale. Like you might be able to launch that one product and make an extra $1,000 a month. And if that's your goal, that's fine. But if you really want to scale this and keep growing it, your money is going to get tied up and then you're not going to be able to grow.
I have to say, it's so refreshing talking to you guys. Like, I'm in agreement, and I'll kind of say a couple things and see if you kind of would agree with this as well. But all of this I think is just brilliant. And number one, what I see is a lot of sellers, first of all, only focusing on revenue. Oh, just revenue. Like, there's a guy I was talking to. It was in Q4 of like last year. He did like, I forget what month it was. It was like 150K. And I was kind of talking with him about it. He had no idea what his profit even was. So there's kind of this obsession with revenue. So not even knowing profit. So of course, read profit first, that's kind of step one. But in like, I believe in, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of what you're saying is on top of that and taking it a step further is don't just look at profit percentage or even just net profit, but look at cash flow. So look at your profit margin and your lead times. The longer your lead times are and the smaller your profit margin, the worse your cash flow is going to be. And then you're going to be like, yeah, I'm making money. Oh, and then the fact that, Amazon, pays every 2 weeks, right? And then withholds some. So can kind of Amazon can be great, but you have to do it in kind of, proper way. And those are 2 big things that we kind of realize as well is, okay, profit, great. Of course, going way above, we want like 60%, margins for the products that we launch. And then also, all right, what's our lead time with these? Because the longer the lead time and the shorter the margins, your money's just going to be constant. Like, where's my money? It's constantly going to be in new inventory.
Exactly,
and everything. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is kind of my opinion. I'm not trying to, put words in your mouth or anything, but
100% agree, yeah, for sure. And it's one of the big things with us, honestly, is we saw a real difference once we actually noticed a lot of our products were underpriced because we realized the actual net ROI that we were getting back with some of the existing products. It ended up meaning we put our prices up, which again sounds stupid, but when you just look at the revenue numbers, you think, okay, we did 25K this month, but then you actually look at the net ROI and you're like, oh shit, it's actually like 45%. So then you adjust all your prices, you adjust your PPC, and then suddenly that's 70, 80%. And then you realize the payments that you're getting back from Amazon, they're way bigger. And then you're like, oh shit, we actually have more money to spend now. We got more money to reinvest. So it helps create a healthier business for sure.
I think to add to that as well, is we definitely were guilty of this. It's very easy to because you're willing, you want a product to work, and you're so desperate to launch products. And especially when you first start out, when you find your first product, it takes a long time, and people don't want to be patient. But you kind of, let's say your numbers are on the edge of being good, so you're 100% gross ROI or a 30% gross margin, and you're like, yeah, that'll probably be okay. I'll make it work. So then you invest all that time, all that money. And then 6 months down the line, you're like, I shouldn't have done that, because that money, that's all tied up. You realize, you then learn a bit more. You realize that you should just take a bit more time, try a different product, because we're running a business. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the numbers, and it's not maybe the sexiest part, doing all the kind of the math to work out your forecasted net ROI. It's not the funnest job, and it's much more fun to look at. Oh, look, I did 50K in revenue, but who cares if you're not making profit? Then what's the point?
Yep, absolutely. So, and then one kind of question within this as well that I'd be curious to know is, so obviously with new products that you launch, you have all this in mind: your ROI, your margin, your cash flow, lead times, and all of those kind of important metrics. It sounds like from what you kind of mentioned that looking at some of your past products, and maybe also with some of these, with COVID, with some of these logistic issues that have happened in the past, like increasing shipping costs or production costs, is that you kind of looked at some of your products that were kind of on the edge of kind of some of your thresholds, and you're like, all right. And correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, it seemed like these products, instead of just kind of continuing with them, we're going to increase the price for these and maybe improve some of the images, improve some of the copy to be able to kind of justify that a little bit or whatever that might look like. But kind of take those products and instead of just kind of maintaining them, okay, well, there's not as good margin. It's no, we're going to increase the price, see how they sell. And if they don't sell at this increased price and with these, with these metrics that we have, then we're going to kind of discontinue. Or kind of how do you look at that with some of those products in the past that you had that were kind of on that edge in terms of those important numbers? Yeah,
we actually. Tom was probably going to say the exact same thing, but we actually had a product that we completely discontinued. It was one that it was probably the biggest investment we made. It was probably about $16,000 on this one product for the first. For the first sort of order and everything, and we had super high hopes. We thought it could be a 70 grand a month product, and long story short, the shipping prices went up. It was a big product. Our margin shrunk, and we kind of had to make the decision: do we continue or do we just we take a step back? And it kind of felt like we would, it was 6 months worth of work wasted. But in hindsight, the money that we ended up probably losing $1,000 in the end, I think, because the shipping went up so much and the margin was razor thin, like I said. So we sold through all of the stock, so we lost a little bit of money on it. But what it meant was we had that money back into the business, and it's even something now that we're doing with some of our current products is, and this is one of the benefits when you have a product roadmap is. You can look at the existing stuff, and you might have a product that's doing 10,000. Because somebody actually asked this question in a Facebook group that I saw the other day, and they said they had a product that's doing. I think they said it was 40% ROI, and the question was, well, it's making $3,000 a month profit. Should I continue? And they were asking for opinions, and the question is can you take what you have invested in that product that's bringing in $3,000, but it's not really the point that it's bringing in $3,000. It's the point that it's at 40% ROI. Can you reinvest? Can you discontinue that, and can you put that into something that's going to bring you 80% ROI, where it might take you 6 months, where you take a little bit step back, but then as soon as it launches and it gains traction, your business actually grows exponentially because you've got that extra bit of cash coming in. So sometimes you genuinely have to take a couple of steps back to take 10 steps forward, and it feels like you're doing the wrong thing almost, because we've got this product and it's selling, but like you said, if you test the price and you do all of that stuff and it doesn't bring the ROI up, if you really want to make it to the, you know, the big leagues and continue to grow, then sometimes you have to discontinue stuff, and it's just the harsh reality of it.
Yeah. Yep. I totally understand. We had to do that. It was the second product that we launched on Amazon. We had to completely kind of discontinue, just liquidate. And two things with that I realized. One is, so number one, sunk cost fallacy definitely plays a role in all areas of life. Yeah. Same thing with us with traveling and just, it's totally like all the time and money that I put into this, and then it's just all wasted. Another way, so what's really great about a product-based business that I found is that compared to, for example, like if I was to invest in Tesla and Tesla stock just drops, or I invest in some kind of alt cryptocurrency and then it just drops and it's dead like Terra Luna, with physical products, there's some of that tangible value. Because I look at this from, I love kind of investing and kind of putting my money in different places and looking at the return. And some of the numbers I actually really, really like. But with physical products, one thing I really like about that investment in my portfolio is that it's like I put all this money into the inventory and everything, and there's some tangible value, even if there's like an issue with, like if this was a case study by Bradley Sutton with Helium 10, this was really cool. Or it was like, I forget who, if it was him or just as a test, or they bought some like defective products just straight up and were like selling it on Etsy, and we're able basically like to break even on, you know, ordering products with a defect, selling them on Etsy, and just liquidating through and like just breaking even. Like I spent, you know, 10K and I made 10K back and just broke even. Yeah, a ton of stress, a lot of time, and your time is money and everything, of course. But there's that value with the product that even if there's an issue, and hopefully not even an issue, it's just like, oh, it's not selling as well as I expected, or there's these unseen, I don't know what it would be, we didn't account for these costs, and it's very unprofitable or whatever. And then, you know, even just discontinuing that, you can still break even or even make a little bit, which is amazing. Because for me, if I break even monetarily on a skill set, that's amazing for me. I'm happy. Like if I spend 10K on this product, you know, have to ultimately liquidate, but I've learned from my mistake, and I've learned some other aspects with whether it's SEO or with paid advertising and you know, choosing the right supplier or making sure I get an inspection service next time or whatever that might be. If I can break even in my mind on a skill set, that's worth it to me as well moving forward. But I totally feel the pain of like that sunk cost. We put all this money, all this time. Are you serious? Or I see this a lot too with a lot of new sellers who are. I was just talking to this couple. Brilliant couple, they're a travel couple as well, and kind of found me that way. We're like, oh, we're actually interested in selling on Amazon, and we started talking. And I can't give too many details away, but let's just say the product that they were planning to launch, I told them, I'm like, hey, make sure, you know, there's all this kind of like checklist, and on that checklist, make sure that you're not infringing on any patents, because this seems like a product that could be, it's like, oh, there's not a lot of options on Amazon. I'm like, well, maybe that's because the top seller on Amazon has a patent on their product, so make sure you do proper patent search. And then they started doing it. They're like, oh, we don't know if it really is infringing on this patent or not. I'm like, whoa. And they're just like, they wanted to get going. They already spent so much time with product research. Yeah. They already spent money on like, I think courses and softwares and things like that. And I'm like, guys, you're going to regret it so much. Like, I'm not saying don't launch this. I'm saying do the proper research in multiple regards. So yeah, I totally am in agreement with you of kind of like sometimes, or maybe even many times, taking a step back, even when we feel like you've invested a lot of time and money in order, and that's, like exactly like you said, I agree with that, being able to really scale and move forward. So like, yeah, man, you guys are real. I love your guys' mindset. Really, I like agreeing with pretty much everything you guys are saying. Like I'm dead serious, and I want you to say that. Like,
it's good to hear.
Yeah, but you guys are brilliant. So okay, that's amazing. And one other thing we kind of touched on, this was a question someone actually had in our group, and I know Tom, you mentioned this, and I've kind of thinking the same thing and kind of reorganizing our strategy, but you mentioned like, yeah, kind of nowadays product launches tend to actually take a little bit longer. You know, maybe at one point it was, well, way back when it was really right 7 days or 30 days or you're right, it's starting to kind of increase. So my question for you guys is, when you have kind of a new product that you're launching, what are some of those key metrics? And I know it's not really binary of like, it's launched, now it's not launched. You know, it's launched, now it's like steady. It's kind of more of a phase of kind of moves through different phases. And what is kind of the phase of like, okay, we're in product launch phase. When does that phase sort of end, or what are some of those metrics you look at? And then what kind of moves into that next phase, and what does that kind of look like, if that makes sense?
I'd say at the start, I mean, this is maybe more kind of Alex's area in terms of PPC, because the main thing we do, like our overarching strategy, I'll kind of quickly fly through it, is we very much look into the keyword analysis. Like we go super, super deep and in depth on the keywords across the board within the niche. We kind of have, because one of the benefits of building a brand in a niche is all go into the same avatar, is because we know the market, we know what they're looking for, we know what we launch kind of complementary products quite often. So there's quite a lot of crossover in terms of the keyword demand. So we know what the high relevant words are. We know where we can target and rank fairly quickly. There's a couple of hero kind of keywords like super high volume that we do want to go for, but we don't necessarily go for them from the start aggressively, because we want to get to a decent position first organically before we really target them. But so yeah, we basically go super in depth. Obviously, do the kind of putting them in the title in exact phrase order, that kind of stuff. Putting them in the bullets. To be honest, with the bullets, we're not so against doing a bit of kind of stuffing, a bit of exact match in the bullets. We think it does seem to help quite a lot still and get the ranking. As well, something we looked at, which you mentioned Helium 10 previously. I know Bradley's quite into the title density, into the column on Cerebro. That's been quite interesting. We've kind of tested a few bits with that, and we've targeted a few keywords that decent volume, and some of our keywords had like zero competition, had it in their titles. So we've thrown them in. That's actually worked pretty well. So I'd say definitely look at that as well. And
actually, Tom, real quick on that end, talking about kind of the title density, which is actually something I recently talked about not too long ago, and it was a really interesting kind of insight. But what Bradley and Helium 10 kind of brought up is that, kind of this other metric to look at is what are some keywords that have relatively, high volume that aren't in exact match, that exact phrase in that order is not in, many listing titles. And then in regards to that, do you kind of, because obviously you mentioned you go into a lot of keyword research. Again, that could be a whole 3-hour video on its own. But with this kind of specific metric, this kind of title density that you mentioned, it's just something you've been looking at, something you've been playing with. Do you kind of look at that and you're like, hey, these are some, these could be some pretty solid keywords that we then target an exact match with our Amazon PPC, because we know that maybe it'd be a little bit less competitive because we know at least all these listings are not including them in the exact phrase? Or is it more for your listing optimization, or kind of like both?
I'd say both. I'll probably throw the PPC side of things. I'll throw it over to Alex now, because he's the PPC don in our company. So Al, you can jump in on that.
Well, there's only 2 of us in the company, so one of us. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly as you said. So Tom does all the keyword research up front, and then I create all of the PPC campaigns. So we have a bit of the strategy that we use for launches, as I guess. I don't know if I think it's I don't want to say it's unusual, but a lot of people don't really do it, is we don't use any auto campaigns. We don't use any phrase campaigns or broad for the launch. We only use exact campaigns. So like that as an example, if we find, Tom will identify those keywords where, okay, we've got a lot of competitors, it's low competition, a lot of competitors that don't have it in their title, for example. So then I will make sure that we have a campaign specifically targeting those keywords. So we build out our campaigns at launch very, very much focused on, we don't try and go super wide with what we target. We would rather aim, for 35, 40 keywords, just exact. And we build out all of the sponsored product, sponsored video works really well for us, but everything is exact. So we really want to control in the first few weeks of the launch. We want to basically tell Amazon we are hyper relevant for this set of keywords. We don't want to get random sales from random keywords, because we think the theory is that it confuses the algorithm sometimes. So that's kind of our goal in the first sort of few weeks. In terms of metrics that we track and all the KPIs and stuff like that, I think the main thing that we look at when we do a launch is there's two key things is organic rank. So we monitor on a daily basis how many keywords we're picking up, which keywords we're driving into the top 10, how many overall are in the top 50. So we use Helium 10 for all of that to do all the keyword tracking. And then we look at conversion rates. So we really want to see in the first 2 to 3 weeks that there's a healthy conversion rate on the product. I think that's one thing that people sometimes overlook, and it's kind of changed a little bit now. And again, this could be another hour-long conversation, but because they've updated all of the attribution now, so Amazon before was not including certain mobile clicks or whatever it was, and now the conversion rates have changed. So previously, a lot of our products were 30% conversion rate, and now they're 13. So that's just a side note that you kind of have to bear in mind. But we monitor very closely what the conversion rate is, because generally what we do, we're looking to place our second order in the first month for whatever we've just launched. So yeah, we monitor very closely the keyword, how the traction on the organic keywords. Obviously, I monitor the PPC side of it. The couple of products that we launched recently, the ACOS was a little bit higher than we're used to. So we kind of like, we're very aggressive with the PPC for the first probably 10 days to 2 weeks. And then we start to like taper it down because, you know, we're happy to have a relatively high ACOS if we're just driving sales. But then as we get maybe 2 weeks into the launch, we really try and taper that down a little bit and focus on the keywords that are converting well and sort of minimize the spend on the keywords that are not particularly converting well.
To add to that as well, just with regards to budget, is when we're launching the products, and this is something as a golden rule across the board for most people, we would say is your budget shouldn't be just your first. I'm sure you might know this already, or you definitely know this, Sumner, but just in case some of your audience don't, is your budget should be your first order. Obviously, all your photography, your trademark, all that good stuff. But you want to have the whole budget for the second order as well. That initial budget should cover the first 2 orders completely, and that's encompassing really aggressive PPC spend. So we don't care, we don't expect to make a profit on that first inventory run. The target isn't to make money. The target is to rank, and it's to solidify your rank and then gain your foothold in the market. And then from the second order, now, as I said earlier, now the launch phase is getting longer and longer. We're not even really too bothered. Even the second order doesn't make too much money. We know that those latest 2 product launches, they have really healthy ROI, so they are starting to make decent profit now, which is great. But for us, like, none of these plans are. We're not looking for a quick win. But everything we're launching has got we've got a 6, 12, 18-month roadmap, and these products are going to have 24-month life cycle, hopefully a bit longer. So if you don't look for the quick win, you make better decisions, and that will help your business kind of in the long run.
I think several amazing points that you guys have both mentioned here in the past few minutes, and I completely agree with that. It's funny because I was just talking to some. We do some sales on Etsy. We're increasing kind of some digital downloads, and that's kind of a test that we have running. And we've been talking with some other Etsy sellers about Etsy ads, and there's like a bunch of sellers, especially with digital products, which is very profitable. That are just like what should my, for digital products, like what should my, ROI be or profitability be for my ads? And for me, I'm like, I want to break even, like as much as, like, I just want to push as much as possible. And they're like, why, Sumner? I'm like, because that's going to help me with ranking. That's also, if I get my product into more people's hands, if it's a good product, good packaging, everything, I have some kind of clever insert. That's more potential virality on social media. That's more people talking about it word of mouth. That's more potentially reviews on whether it's Etsy or Amazon. So it's kind of like a mindset of, where I find a lot of people this kind of scarcity mindset. Now, it's not like abundance versus scarcity. You have to be like, okay, let's be realistic and think. But having that long-term focus, which obviously both of you clearly have, which a lot of kind of like, I want to be profitable immediately as soon as I launch, right? Or also like, all right, I order my product, and then it's like, my lead time's 30 days. It's like, wait, like I need to reorder. Like I just started selling, I need to reorder. It's like, exactly, yeah, you need to. So exactly what you mentioned, making sure you have enough budget for the marketing side and the inventory side for those kind of first 2 orders. Brilliant. Very, very good point. And number 2, like having that long-term focus of kind of breaking even in the middle. And I can kind of tell you guys just a general, this is very, very general. So it's not, it will depend kind of on the product and some other factors. But for us, for our products that we launch, we kind of have our initial 3 main phases, especially when it comes to like marketing and advertising, and obviously Amazon PPCs are heaviest. And I have a couple questions about that as well. So our first phase is kind of like, obviously ranking, getting those initial reviews, and our target ACOS is about 2x whatever our kind of profit margin is. That's for us personally, like being very, very aggressive and having that higher ACOS, where a lot of sellers kind of have that break even always. What we do personally with our business kind of have that like 2x. Then once we have, we do look at unit session percentage rate as well. We look at, and which is significantly correlated with the number of reviews that we found. So once we have like 20 to 50 reviews, our unit session percentage rate is decent. Then we start phasing out, and then we start reducing, and it's like 150% our break even is kind of what we have for ACOS, or 1.5x. And then that's like for 30 to 60 days. And then after that period, we have just kind of break even ACOS is kind of our target. And we do some testing within each, and we look at our tacos and everything as well, but like in general, that's kind of how we go about and some metrics that we look at. And for you guys, I know you mentioned obviously being aggressive in the beginning. Is there any kind of specific metrics you have as well? You kind of have already identified like, hey, here, 30 to 50 keywords that are very, very important for us to target with exact match PPC in order to kind of rank and establish relevancy for those. Do you guys have some of those kind of like ACOS metrics or certain phases of like, okay, so this is aggressive phase. Now we're going to be in kind of like moderate phase and then more profitable phase or anything like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's as I say, like generally probably like for the first couple of weeks, we don't completely disregard the ACOS because like if you're running at like 300% ACOS after a week, then you're going to burn through a ton of cash. And also if you're running at that level, there's a huge correlation, I think, between your conversion rate and your organic rank. So I think sometimes there's this idea that you just have to drive sales, but I would kind of disagree with that. So it's kind of like a happy medium because I agree with what you're saying about like we kind of do the same. So if after 2 weeks, let's say our break even is 35%, if after 2 weeks we're around 70%, we're happy with that because we know we don't really have any reviews yet. We know the conversion rate's not going to be super high, but we also know that we're in the honeymoon period, so that we're going to get a lot of impressions and stuff like that. So it's probably around 2 weeks that we're probably about the same as you. Like we're looking at around 2x what the ACOS is. And then once we're 2 weeks in, it's time then to start sort of trimming the fat and saying, right, we want to cut out these keywords that are not converting too well, really lower the budget on them. On the ones that are converting well, perhaps we even want to increase the budget. So probably like 3-4 weeks in is where we would start looking to bring it down. Let's say, yeah, probably if we're around like break evens like 35%, 40%, whatever it is, we'd probably be looking at getting it around maybe 50%, aiming for that. And then, once we get into 2 months, 3 months into the launch, that's where we really want to start getting around, a close-ish to what the break even is. But more than ACOS, probably after like 2-3 months, we really start to look at the overall sort of tacos of the tacos. I never know how to pronounce it. Tacos of the products, because essentially that's all that matters, right? Is your PPC is obviously one part of it, but you have to also consider like how many organic sales are you driving as well. So we really aim to get like a 12% tacos after about where we are now with these new products. It's probably like coming up to like 3 months in, we really want to be optimizing around tacos and making sure that we're driving a lot of organic, well, as much as we can organically, but also we're really tightening up the ACOS at that point. So once you start tightening up the ACOS, generally you will see that obviously your tacos starts to improve as well. So we really keep a close eye on the ratio of PPC to organic sales. Ideally, we want more organic sales. One of our products is like 60-65% organic sales now, which is great. Some of them are on the lower end where the majority actually are PPC sales still, but because the PPC ACOS is actually really good, it means that the overall tacos is good. So you got to kind of take it case by case, but that's generally how we look at it for the first sort of few months. Yeah,
I think as well, just to add to that in terms of how Amazon's probably changed a bit in the last couple of years is where PPC's become such a big kind of pay to play system now on Amazon. I think beforehand you could really get away with not having too much of a PPC strategy, and especially since we've began, PPC is so important now, and it's not going to go away. It makes Amazon too much cash, obviously, and it's kind of you need to have a strategy now. So I think everyone's tacos generally has increased a little bit. I think ours has as well for sure, which is why one of the other things we look at now with our products that we launch, we target a higher price point. So we position ourselves as a premium brand anyway, and everything that we do is premium. So we're generally the highest priced items in our niche for whatever products we sell. And the fact that we go now custom with our products allows us to do that as well. We can charge a higher price point, but charging that higher price point, it does give you a bit more of a buffer, and you can play with PPC a bit more. When you sell products that are kind of 10, 15, $20, it can get really tight and you can very quickly get quite a poor tacos. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Obviously, it's not so easy always to find higher price point products because they cost more to launch. But then again, on the other hand, you might have less competition because people generally don't look at products that are a super high price point because they think it's out of their budget.
Oh, absolutely. We have the same philosophy. We didn't start out this way. We were just like, hey, let's make any sales that we can. Let's learn the ropes. But as time went on, we're like, if we want to be able to, have healthy margins, we have to charge the highest price. And then we're like, well, what do we need to do in order to be premium? And then we started looking at packaging. We looked definitely investing heavily in images, in copy, making sure it's actually like funny, or depending on obviously your brand and everything, that would totally depend. But totally agree with that. And that it's funny. I think that alone, like having healthier margins, solves so many business problems, which is no duh, of course, but but there's so many people who don't. They're just like, let me get in, or like, oh, I just want to move more volume at a lower margin. I'm like, you're gonna that is one strategy and everything. It's people can do that successfully, but I'm like, man, that's gonna be a headache for me, and that's gonna just I think cause so many problems. So I agree with that. And 2 points I want to make just for those listening who aren't as familiar: tacos or tacos or however it's pronounced, which nobody knows, is total advertising cost of sale. So what a lot of sellers get hung up with is just being so focused in their campaign manager dashboard in kind of Amazon PPC and looking at their ACOS or ACOS, right? Their advertising cost of sale. Whereas you guys have pointed out, which is very, very important to look at, is your total advertising cost of sale, or TACOs, Taco Tuesday. So you want to kind of see, what percentage, of your total sales, what percentage of those sales, are kind of what percentage of revenue is going toward advertising is one metric to kind of look at that is important. Yeah. And the other, I know, Alex, you mentioned this, that I think it's fairly familiar, but for those who aren't knowledgeable in this, kind of the honeymoon period. And Alex, why don't you, if you briefly, what is the honeymoon period, and kind of also what have you found about kind of the honeymoon period of new products that you've launched?
Essentially, when you list a new product and when that product goes live, Amazon knows that is a brand new product to the platform, so it kind of gives you an extra bit of help. So I think I don't know if it came from Bradley Sutton from Helium 10, but
I think it did.
Is it so a new product is going to get more impressions. They're gonna place you a little bit higher organically initially. They basically they basically know, okay, this is a new product. We want to test this out. We want to get this in front of customers. So that's the reason it's so important, is because, that's your chance at that point to drive as many sales as you can and tell Amazon that it's not just a new product, it's a new product that people really like.
Totally get it. And you mentioned this, which I think is a really good point. I know there's some disagreement, but I always like to see people's results. Then then I'm going to learn from them versus just theory. And you mentioned this that I think was really key. And there's actually two questions here. But number one is you mentioned that you have found that it seems that conversion rate for your products, especially during launch, during the honeymoon period, and also after, is very, very important for keyword ranking. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've been looking into in our data recently. A good exercise to do is use Helium 10, pull all of your organic data and filter it for where you rank, let's say top 5, and then pull all your PPC data and then cross-reference the organic ranks with the PPC ranks, with the PPC conversion rate. I actually did a LinkedIn post on this today, and I almost guarantee what you will find is the keywords that you rank top 4 or top 5, they will have a higher than average conversion rate. So if your conversion rate on average for that product is 10%, if you check in PPC on a keyword that you rank second for, I guarantee it will be higher than 10%. Because it's just what I'm seeing with and this is one of the things that we've started to test is some keywords that we're actually driving sales through. But let's say the conversion rate is 3%, and we do drive sales, and and the ACOS is okay. We actually have started to test turning it off or really lowering the bids on that to see the impact on the organic ranks. Because the theory is that imagine you're sending clicks to this product, and it converts, but it converts at 3%, and everyone else converts at 9%. Then you're making sales, but you're actually telling Amazon, we're not really converting. The customers on the whole don't really love this product. So the theory is from our side that Amazon kind of suppresses you a little bit. So we're trying to do a lot of testing around that, and I do think conversion rate is just the number one driver for organic rate rank, and I think people talk a lot about like hacks, like I said, with like put this in the title and do this and do that. I don't think it's as relevant as conversion rate is.
Basically,
Okay.
long story short is if you have a bad offering and a bad product, there's no hack that's going to enable you to rank. It's just, if I'm fundamentally like, you need to sell a good product, it needs to be a really good offering, the listing needs to be 10 out of 10, the images need to be great, and then you'll rank, because our best ranking product is our best selling product. And that's kind of like, it's kind of pretty obvious in the end, but there's obviously, you've got to play the system to an extent, and it definitely, it's essential to understand the algorithm, and understand to position yourself in a way where you can gain those ranks, and that's definitely part of the launch strategy for sure. You can't ignore that. You can't just put up a great product and not put a title or any bullet points, of course. So you've got to play the game, but fundamentally, you need to have a good offering.
Totally. And Alex, both of what you mentioned is brilliant, and what a great, and it's, of course, I wish I would have thought of this on my own. I would have done this in my own products, but specifically like 2 metrics to look at. Look at my, my exact match campaigns, look at the conversion rate for my, all my top sales driving keywords, and then just, run a, reverse ASIN search for your own ASIN and look at where you're organically ranking, and then see if there's a significant correlation between not necessarily number of orders, but conversion rate for, keyword X, and then look at your organic ranking for keyword X, same thing for Y, and so on. Very interesting. I'm like, literally after this call, I'm going to do that with our own listings. That's brilliant. And then, yeah.
If your data proves my theory wrong, then I don't want to know. I'm kidding, of course I do. And if it does, though, I'll be obviously it's interesting, but on our data, it's definitely that way. There's a super strong correlation between it.
Yeah, if it works, then send an invoice, Alex, for a couple hundred.
Exactly. Yeah. Send me the invoice. So once exactly. So no, that's brilliant. And Tom, exactly what you said as well. That this is starting to become more the conversation in the Amazon space. For smaller sellers that's getting started and things like that are starting to grow. I've talked about this so much, like for a few years now, the importance of your listing quality. Like, okay, there's all these conferences and there's all this talk about like Amazon PPC and kind of like trying to win Amazon PPC in Campaign Manager. And obviously, which Alex, you've already shared some amazing tips of, targeting exact match and having this ACOS and then, changing over to this when we have this unit session percentage rate and all of that. But at the core of it, like if you want to see your Amazon PPC ACOS go down and your sales go up, if you want to see that happen in Campaign Manager, then improve your images, improve your copy. Of course,
100%, yeah.
With all of that, make sure you have a unique selling proposition. Like, do you have a product people actually want? Is it cool? Is it sexy? Like, is it like, or is it boring that looks like everyone else's? And you skimped out on photography, and you have copy that's so corporate and whatever. You have no A+ content, whatever. Like, I mean, I think I know I'm kind of like speaking over you and maybe putting words in your mouth, but I feel that we're in agreement there of just how funny it is. Like, if you want better ACOS and you want better marketing, advertising results. This is outside of Amazon, Google Ads, Facebook ads. Improve your landing page. Like, your product listing is your landing page for Amazon PPC. So like, you improve both your product as well as your total listing. Like, just that alone, your results are going to improve, and you will see. That's a guarantee, right? So I'm in. Like I said, I've been like in agreement with you guys, like pretty much I think on every single topic thus far, and it's been awesome. And I know we've been talking for a while. I think there's just a couple other quick questions if you guys don't mind, and really appreciate your time, by the way, thus far, and all of the info that you've been sharing. So one question that I had is kind of going back to Amazon PPC for a second. So with that, is there so I know you mentioned like, yeah, we want to be super relevant, only target an exact match, no phrase, no broad for that kind of first period, maybe like 2 to 4 weeks or so. And then is there any point that you start targeting then, I would assume, but is there a point that you start targeting those same keywords in phrase and broad, start maybe finding some more like long tail keywords and targeting those, start targeting ASINs, or do you really kind of focus really heavily just on like exact match?
Yeah, so it's generally like about the probably 3 or 4 week mark that we start to open it up then, and then we'll take those exact and then we'll put them into phrase, and we'll start running those phrase campaigns. Like probably like week 5 we'll start opening some broad campaigns as well, and then we'll also around week 4 generally start turning on the auto campaigns. The thing with an auto campaign, and the reason that we don't use it from launch, is an auto campaign, if you think about the data that it has to work with, it has the keywords on your page, and it has the category that you tell your product is part of. So it's essentially like, the way that I view it is it's like a Facebook pixel. So when you start a Facebook pixel, it has no data. And generally what you do is you build up the data on the pixel, and the longer the pixel runs, the more data it has and the better results that you get. And I see an auto campaign in the exact same way. So in the beginning, it doesn't have any data. So if you start an auto campaign 4 weeks into your launch, when it has conversion data, it has on-page data, it has all your sales data, you're almost starting it as like a warm pixel. So it has all of this data. So it's around like the 4 week mark that we start opening it up. And we start building in the phrase, we start building in the broad, and then we start building in the different auto campaigns as well.
I think the product targeting
also do a lot of ASIN targeting.
We do that from day one, right?
Yeah, the product targeting is we do that from day one as well. We pick the products we pick the products that are almost the same as ours, so we don't we go very narrow. Some people don't even do that, to be honest. Some people that do share a similar sort of strategy, they don't do any product targeting, but we do. But yeah, we don't like look at the complementary products and then we add those in. We're not interested in the first 4 weeks for that. But around the 4 week mark is where we start to like open it up.
No, that totally makes sense. Yep, it's totally makes sense. And something else that I've noticed, and I'm sure you guys have seen this as well, is something really cool. So I know there's a little bit of like debate on auto campaigns for launch. We do not do auto campaigns during our kind of launch phase. We wait until like phase 3 usually. With our 3 kind of phases that we launch products. And what we've seen is if you go, just as a tactical kind of like tip, if you go into your campaign manager and kind of go click on sponsored products, go to start creating like an auto campaign, and look at some of those suggested keywords that Amazon is giving you. If those suggested keywords that Amazon's giving you are super like broad and like, totally off, and I'm trying to think of an example, but like if you're selling, I don't know, like a water bottle, and it's some kind of like water bottle, like, or water storage unit for like collecting rainwater, if that makes sense. Like you can kind of see where Amazon's going with it, but it's totally irrelevant. Like a rain barrel versus a water bottle, it's like, and then you see with time, as you collect, you get those sales, and hopefully, very relevant sales.
They get way more relevant.
Yeah, and you can see that on your own. You can just do once per week, just set a reminder, check in, and you should kind of see that improve. That's what we've seen as well. So we kind of, when we know to turn on autos for us, like we look at like, are these fairly relevant, like the Amazon suggested. It's still never perfect. You're still going to get in auto like certain keywords or whatever that are just kind of like bizarre, or it's like, oh, that's relevant, but I never thought to negative exact that, but or whatever. But that's just kind of one random thing that we notice as well that I know I'm sure you guys have as well. And okay, very cool. So you kind of in the beginning, if I get this right, you run a lot of very targeted exact, and then also from the get go, also some product targeting as well. So it's for very relevant, kind of similar product types.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly, yeah.
And then later, kind of maybe when you're setting up auto and broad, you do target complementary, or do you never target?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so in generally in the auto campaigns, like the complementary products, to be honest, they never really perform very well for us. And again, our goal is to have a very healthy conversion rate. So I would rather be more specific with the targeting. And yeah, okay, you don't make as many sales, and maybe your revenue is a little bit lower, but your conversion rate is higher, your TACoS is higher, your business is healthier. So in general, we would rather just sort of, have a little bit sort of lower sales, but a higher conversion rate. And in my experience with the auto campaigns, the complementary products, they don't always convert super well, that the ACoS is a bit higher. But yeah, I mean, it's not to say that we don't test that out. We do that for each product, because our kind of mantra is like, we don't want to just like take learnings and never experiment. So we always try and experiment. But generally, yeah, it's the longer we go into, now we're like 6 months into a product launch or whatever, then, we'll experiment with going a little bit wider and stuff like that, as long as it obviously hits those conversion rates and goals. But
I think as well, it also, there's obviously a bit of a roadmap that you follow for this kind of thing. There's a launch strategy, but each product and each sub niche is going to have slightly different demands. So you've got to tailor it each time. It's not just a set. It's not kind of a set it and forget it, and we do it exactly at 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Obviously, you've got to be a bit malleable and and bear that in mind when you enter some of the niches we're going into now, like the sub niches. They're much more competitive, so we know we have to spend even more on PPC, or it's going to take a bit longer to rank, and that's something you have to bear in mind, because it's not like a set playbook for every single product on Amazon.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure, certain products is like, oh, this actually makes sense. Like for, complementary targeting, that could actually make a lot of sense. It's like here, it's like, oh, would that really work out? That's what we've noticed. Like we've seen, because we do kind of test, and Alex, exactly what you said, which totally true. Like, ABT, always be testing, test your PPC, test your main image, test, whatever, kind of keep testing and improving, and never just take anything, or even test your, for the longest time, or, having a target, break even ACOS, ultimately delivered the most profit and was the best for a business. But let's test like 5% below, 10% below, or even 5% above, or whatever that looks like. But so totally agree with that. And also, we've seen like, setting up, let's say, similar types of complementary ASIN targeting campaigns for all of our product types, that we've seen some just like dominate, just do really well, and others like not so much. And a very interesting point that you made, Alex, as well about that is, which I find very interesting, and like I said, I already mentioned it, I'm going to do a little bit more digging and research and maybe test in that area specifically. But like a lot of sellers like, all right, just dominate more sales, more sales, more sales. And it's like, I'm fine kind of like leaving those advertised sales alone for those maybe complementary if it helps me improve my unit session percentage rate or conversion rate for my listing, which ultimately helps me in the long run. I think that's a very interesting perspective that I am now going to be figuring out a way to kind of test that with our own products. I really like that. Something I didn't really think about before.
Can we ask you a question, actually? I'm intrigued because you're a bit more experienced actually than us in this, but like how do you view events like Amazon Prime Day, for example? Like we don't massively pay much attention to it, because our kind of logic previously has been, if we get a crazy spike in sales, then you might get a quick spike in organic rank, but you may unless you kind of maintain that, you could easily lose it, and also it can really mess up your inventory management. So do you go for Prime Day and these aggressive like Black Friday and those kind of days?
Yeah, so of course, exactly kind of like what you said before. Obviously, each product is different, unique, and kind of requires a different strategy. So of course, product by product basis. Funny, we've been talking about this. So background, Allie, my wife, we're in business together, which people who are watching this kind of know. She handles all of our logistics. So we're in constant, I do the Amazon PPC side, she does some of the logistics. So we're obviously in conversation like, Sumner, what the hell? You spent $600 on Pinterest ads? Like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, it's just a test that I was running. But anyway, so we were just talking about this. And in general, like, I think there's way more emphasis than there should be on a lot of these kind of like spikes in certain days. It's always good to have things like prepped for other seasonality, like aside from Prime Day, if it was like, if there's certain holidays or events that happen in the year and your product specifically relates to that event, kind of having those campaigns set up with those, you take your exact keywords and then add the word like Christmas or like Father's Day or Earth Day or whatever. And then, have that kind of segmented, holiday campaign or whatever. So we do some of that, like to kind of capitalize on that a little bit. And we also do some content on social media and have that. But yeah, in terms of Prime Day, we just look at like what are our, kind of highest margin products. We try to prep for, it's kind of tough to tell exactly how much more are we going to sell. But I think probably agree with you a little bit more. We do not take it nearly as, I don't know what the word is, like seriously or as intensely. Like there's so many other important metrics that we look at that we're just focusing on and hitting on, that this is one that like, you need to do this because it increased rank. I'm like, yeah, it's going to go up and come back down. And we look very much more in the long term. We do a little bit of prep for making sure we have enough inventory for those products with higher margin. We're willing to kind of push those and maybe do some Prime deals with those. But otherwise, or some couponing or whatever. But otherwise, like, it's just kind of my philosophy. I know I could be wrong in this, but like, I really don't care. Like, there's so much. It's like what Warren Buffett says, Mr. Market. Like, the market is so noisy all the time. There's always this shiny object. There's always something going on. And then everyone in the community is like, Sumner, we need to obsess about this. Or, hey, Sumner, where's your content about Prime Day? I'm like, it's not as important. This conversation, way more important. This is going to have way more impact. So that's kind of our overall, if that answers your question. I actually don't even know if I answered it, but.
Yeah, no, it does, 100%, man. No, that's, I think we think exactly the same. It's funny, so I'm like the wife, by the way, in this relationship, so I do all our logistics and Alex does all the PPC. I was waiting to Alex to make the joke, so I thought I'd get in there first.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know, again, it's been quite a while, and you guys have been, first of all, love your energy, love your guys' personality. You guys are brilliant, absolutely freaking, you guys are doing more numbers than we are. Like, you guys are crushing it. And one last kind of question I had, and the reason I'm asking this is because I recently had a conversation. What am I allowed to share? I recently had a conversation with a service provider that specifically deals with Amazon attribution and external kind of traffic. And in conversation with them, they basically wanted me to become an affiliate or whatever, but kind of talk to them, and they shared some really cool data with me. They work with a bunch of sellers, some pretty big sellers as well, and it's not. They were like, "This isn't definitive yet, but there's like strong evidence." Like Amazon, it's just basically like it's one step before Amazon actually coming out and saying this publicly. It's like one step before that. Like there's enough data that shows that for Google search ads specifically, for a certain search query that someone kind of types into Google, if you have a Google search ad set up, clicks on your ad, and then takes them to Amazon and purchases your product, that even through that search on Google, that can actually increase your keyword ranking for that keyword on Amazon. Again, I'm not saying this is something that they said I thought was kind of really interesting. And using attribution helps track that or something. I'm not as knowledgeable with kind of some of the back end of that sort of thing. I'm definitely not a tech geek or whatever. We couldn't even we had the hardest time setting up this call. So, but I thought it was a very interesting insight and it kind of made me prioritize some of our Google search ads more, which we've been running for a while now. Because that's actually what I did before I got into Amazon. So we did a lot of kind of specifically Google search ads, just a simple Google ad that you target very specific keywords. For those of you who don't know, you type in, whatever you're selling, like what we said, like water bottle. Then you have your kind of water bottle text ad show up. People can click, goes directly to your Amazon listing if you want it to, and potentially increase rank. I was wondering, because I know you guys mentioned you've done some Google ads, or you may do that kind of with Launch. Have you seen this in your data be the case? Do you use Google ads for kind of product launch?
We have kind of dabbled in it a little bit. I will admit it's something that we haven't really had great results with, to be honest, historically. But we had another conversation with somebody literally this morning, and it's definitely something that we want to do more testing on. I think I know maybe who you're talking about in terms of the company, but I think the same. I think it obviously makes sense that if you bring someone in from off Amazon. Because if you think about lifetime value, like if somebody comes in and they're not actually an Amazon customer, they buy the product and then they become an Amazon customer for Amazon, that's like super, super valuable. So it makes sense that they would give you more sort of weight and more sort of credit for external sales. The little bits that we tried, like we tried Reddit ads, we've tried Google AdWords, we tried a little bit of Facebook ads as well. Like we just never really had great success with it. But again, with the sort of ethos of always be testing stuff, it is something that in the next couple of months we're going to look at trying again and trying on all the different products and all that sort of stuff.
I think to be fair as well, when we did it, to be honest, we were not in the same position cash wise as we are now. So as you grow as a business, you're able to run more of these tests, and you can take a bit more risk. And we at this phase, I think we tried Google more than 7-8 months ago for one of the products, and the costs were racking up, but also you didn't have the attribution that you now have with Amazon, so you couldn't really tell you couldn't track it very well. So it was kind of, we were like, are we just burning cash? We can't really tell, is it working? So I think now we have a bit more cash to grow through the company, then yeah, we'll test it a bit more. And some high ticket items, I think we're definitely very keen to try quite a few different methods. We've got a bit more of a buffer and a higher margin. We have recently actually, we just sponsored a podcast in our niche, which is a bit of fun. So we'll see how they have an attribution link, so we'll see how that drives growth as well. We don't see too many people doing that, but it was really good value, to be honest, and they're a great podcast, so that's fun. But yeah, we're definitely going to look at this more and more, like micro influencers. We started working with a few of them now. We have looked at TikTok as well, but similar to Prime Day, to be honest. We kind of thought, if you go viral on TikTok, and I think some of our products could go not go viral, but like huge, then they're not that kind of niche perhaps, but they could still have a really big spike. And again, our worry would be, are we going to mess up our inventory? So you need to be prepared for that, I think. But yeah, these are all things I think as we grow as a business and the level that we're at now, we're definitely going to be testing kind of with the higher budget and then hopefully getting the rewards from that.
Oh, for sure. Totally understand. And I've seen kind of the same thing. And I've also noticed even recently it seems that attribution is a little bit glitchy. You know, kind of looking, for example, in your Google Ads like dashboard, and then looking at attribution, like certain like clicks, not really like lining up or things like that. And I've noticed that. I mean, that was a huge problem in the past that hopefully they'll kind of be improving. So I noticed that as well, even with attribution. And another kind of again, I know Alex, we talked when we were in Buenos Aires, and you mentioned that you actually had experience with Google with SEO and things like that. So I'm sure it's something you already know, but something we found somewhat success with is first, like kind of going and looking at our kind of top converting as well as top sales driving keywords in exact match, especially those that are like product specific versus category specific. Like if there's a specific type, like hiking, men's hiking water bottle versus just like water bottle, for example, like getting really targeted. Found better results with that with kind of Google Ads, even if it's not as much volume, but having a lot of those long tail, very specific. And then also kind of taking those keywords and adding the word Amazon either at the beginning or end of each keyword, to where people's like literally, and it's crazy the number of people that go on Google, type in, hiking water bottle Amazon, and then, have your ad show up and then kind of take them there. And obviously that will likely convert a little bit better, and maybe have like an ad group for that as well. But yeah, there's two random things that we kind of noticed, but yeah, definitely, especially more category, like more kind of, even in exact match, but like more of a broader, shorter tail keywords with Google Ads. Yeah, we definitely found, very low conversion rate, and we still test because it's kind of tough. We're kind of not really using it as a tool to like drive direct sales. We want to like ultimately use it as a tool for keyword ranking. So we allocate like, I think it's like 5% of our advertising budget goes toward Google Ads. It's like 90% is like Amazon right now. And that's actually two last quick, and I promise this will be last. I know we've already gone like super long. I really appreciate you guys. Been amazing talking with you guys. But one is overall, and I know it kind of depends on the product and things like that, kind of looking at your maybe advertising or marketing spend as sort of a portfolio, maybe especially just during launch, if we focused on that, about what % would you say of your kind of launch budget is allocated toward Amazon ads specifically?
Of the overall budget, including everything to launch the product?
Yeah, including kind of, if we just focus on like just any form of paid advertising. So like, for example, like if you just looked at Amazon PPC, Google Ads, Reddit ads, any influencer partnerships that you paid for, any kind of paid marketing and advertising just for launch, if we just kind of hone in on that, about if you guys have, and maybe you're like, actually, I don't really know, it kind of depends, but if you have a number, about what would that be?
Honestly, it's probably like 95%. Like I said, we have experimented with a little bit of Reddit ads. The Google AdWords we've done on a couple of launches, but as I said, we didn't really get great results. So the vast majority, like 95%, is Amazon PPC.
Gotcha. Similar, about like 90%, and we're still testing. And one last thing, I'll share this with you because this is something brand new, and I'm just going to share this with you and anyone else who's watching that may find this valuable. So I'll try to keep it short, but basically, you guys mentioned TikTok, and I've been on TikTok for a while. Like we have our travel stuff on TikTok. We have like 47,000 like followers. Like we're pretty active.
Oh, wow,
and
nice.
I use that kind of like to relax. Like I watch through TikTok, which I probably shouldn't for my dopamine in my brain. But so like we're on TikTok quite a bit, but on for kind of our travel side, and we're like, why aren't we using this with our products? So I had this thought. So basically, we do a lot of content creation. We create this type of content on YouTube. We have our travel vlogs I was just editing earlier, and all this kind of content we're constantly creating every single week. And a big realization that I had was like, man, we're creating all this content. First of all, is this going to get results? Like, is this really worth it? And then I just had this kind of like epiphany of like 80-20. I was like, let me go on TikTok right now and let me like reverse engineer, like what are the top viral videos that would be the easiest to recreate that are product focused. So like not what are the most viral videos. That's what we used to do. We're like, oh, what are like the top YouTube videos we make? What are the top TikToks? And like, let's kind of recreate or jump on that trend. And it was just burning us out. And we're like, no, let's quit doing all of these trends or all this different kind of content. Like instead of like me sitting down, like if I do keyword research with YouTube and identify like, oh, here's a keyword that would take me like 3 minutes and it'd be super valuable. That's way better than me taking an hour to record something. It's way more efficient. And it's kind of similar in terms of, how I could rank and ultimately deliver. So kind of like my total effort in and then return back. That's like the theory. So what I did is recently, we just did this, is I'm mentioning it to you, and, I haven't got results yet because we haven't started this, but it's in the process, is went on TikTok, looked at product specific videos that are viral that have like, let's just say 1 million or more total views. And we also looked at like products that were kind of relevant to ours as well, just general products as well as kind of relevant. And then we looked at, okay, of those, which are like 11 seconds or shorter and are very easy to like to recreate, like super easy. And then we looked at, okay, how many hashtags are you using? What hashtags are they using? How long are their descriptions? And just had this kind of like hit list. And what we're doing right now, literally like today, we're like extending an offer. We went on Fiverr, found this, we worked with her in the past to actually create some really amazing product videos for our sponsored brand ads, you know, for Amazon, which is awesome. So she's already done that. It was like $60 per video. It was like super cheap. And she does a really good job, like quality, like crisp and everything. So we're like, hey, we have this list of literally like specific templates for TikTok. Like, here's how long the video should be. Here's exactly what sound to use. Here's the hashtags to use. Here's how long the caption should be in general, like what it should be. And then like basically setting up this program with her to create 90 pieces of content from now until Black Friday. And we're going to kind of see how that runs. But like, that's just kind of our overall content strategy is, sorry, I know I'm rambling, but basically what I realized is like there's two pieces of marketing and advertising, which we know. It's paid and organic. And on the paid side, we do a lot. We do Amazon, Google, and Pinterest ads. We also do some Amazon posts, which are kind of unique, you know, with Amazon, and get really good results with those. But yeah, we have the paid, and then we have the organic side, especially like off of Amazon. And we create content for Amazon, we create for our products, we create for travel. So we're constantly creating content for a lot of different brands. And we've just been getting burnt out and had this big epiphany of like vertical content is the only way to grow. Like, I'm not going to create any content unless it's vertical content, at least for my products, because I can take that vertical content, like that TikTok, basically, and I can take that TikTok and repost strategically as Instagram Reels, Pinterest idea pins, and even like Twitter and also YouTube Shorts.
Oh, YouTube
Shorts I can have.
Yeah.
So basically, so we're kind of running through all of this. Like, so to recap is we reverse engineered like what are the easiest to create vertical form videos, hire someone inexpensively to kind of recreate this with an exact template. And of course, if you read like the E-Myth, right, like create systems that like anyone can replicate versus trying to hire an expert. Like that's exactly what we do this with everything. Like we try to systematize everything and then find the lowest, I mean, I don't know the right way to say this, like lowest IQ to do this, because lower, skill set is more inexpensive and we can get a higher return just by developing a better system instead of like, hey, you develop the system and pay you a premium agency. So reverse engineered, have them do that, and then we're paying another VA. So we're going to pay her like, I don't know how much, like $30-$40 per video or something, I think, like to test, which I know is kind of an investment and maybe a little bit high. We're still working with her on that. So she's going to create the content because she has that skill set and that equipment. She's going to post for us. Then we have a VA that we're hiring for like $10 an hour, and they're going to spend like just a few minutes a day reposting that content on all these other platforms. And in my view, so we have the paid advertising side kind of like pretty much covered. Like we're still improving and always testing, of course, especially with Amazon PPC, which is our biggest driver. But on the organic side, I'm like, this is the biggest piece that's missing with our product business. Like let's test this out. Like let's do this, man. Like I'm so freaking pumped. And I don't know why I feel so strongly about this, just with all my experience with content creation, but we have zero results so far. We haven't done anything other than we like posted our product getting run over by a car, just like for fun to see what it would do, and it got like 2 million views on TikTok. We had another one.
Oh, wow.
It was we had a tutorial video on how to use our product, like a step by step, which we give for basically for free. It's like, hey, here's how to set up the product, just to make sure you're using it correctly. And we just reposted it, and it looks horrible. We did this like, I forget when we did this, but we just reposted it quick. That has like 30,000 views. So, and we aren't tracking the exact sales and the exact everything. We will get more dialed in the future, but we've already done a couple like little things on the side and already seen like some kind of result. We're like, let's just, man, TikTok right now, like TikTok and LinkedIn are the two places for organic growth, but specifically vertical video on TikTok, then reposting that. I think that's going to be, I honestly believe that'll have a higher return potentially than any of our other advertising. That's my hope. But all I have is a theory, nothing else. So, but
very interesting.
Man, theory, once we get it going, I'll keep you guys posted, and of course I'll make an update video if anyone's interested. If I get results, if I don't get results, I'll also be making an update video. Hey, we posted 90 videos. We got a total of like 3,000 views. Like it was a total waste of money. Whatever. So anyway, that was the last piece. I know it's like,
I think the only thing with TikTok for us, like, it's like, it's just the quality of the viewer that you get, isn't it? That's the only kind of the thing that you want to dial it in on. But I think their algorithm is so smart that it's going to get sharper and sharper, and it will get dialed in to the point where you can target really specific kind of demographics. Yeah,
and that's something that's interesting is like you get all these views and maybe you get a bunch of people like clicking, to your listing and like, screwing up your conversion rate and things like that as well, which is definitely something that we've been thinking about as well. But we think that maybe it'll kind of self-regulate. Like there'll be enough, all the people that are just kind of interested in like, oh, that was a cute video. That was kind of cool. What a cool product. Like it, maybe comment or share. People are really interested to actually go and buy and maybe kind of self-filter.
Yeah.
And what we do is for our TikTok, we do is TikTok, Instagram, everything. We have a free kind of digital download, and we use that kind of like as a lead magnet, and then follow up with like a coupon to our, to our shop to kind of help filter out a little bit as well. Very, very basic. Obviously not email marketing expert at all. It's the number one skill that I'm honing in on this year is email marketing, like for the next several months. But yeah, it's totally. Yeah, we'll see. Like, is it gonna? Oh, we get a bunch of traffic, but it screwed up our conversion rate. It actually like hurt us, on Amazon. But it's also like we're starting there on TikTok, and then for me, what I love, my two favorite platforms are Google and YouTube. Search engines. I don't like social media. I love search engines because I love creating content that generates income for months and years to come. That's my favorite. I love it so much. Yeah. And I take that same TikTok and just kind of basically strategically repost as a YouTube short. And that's another kind of, and obviously different audience there, different audience on Twitter, different audience on Instagram. So kind of covering all those audiences. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It could be a total failure, but we'll see. And definitely keep you guys posted.
Good.
No,
sounds good.
Man. We actually had a conversation, Alex, as I was on my way back home today, I had a voice note from Alex saying we are, like obviously we've got the Amazon brand that we're trying to grow, and we're looking at, like I said, like the podcast and some micro influencers, and then our own, like the honest entrepreneur side of things, like our YouTube channel. We're definitely, obviously Twitter and YouTube are our main focus, but we want to get into the YouTube Shorts and then TikTok as well. It's something that we're literally discussing that right now. So we'll see you on there, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. Yep, I'm dialing in. It's like a month ago I had like my Amazon TikTok, like my what is it called? Like my Amazon side, FBA side, e-commerce, that TikTok hacked. So I finally got it back. I was able to. They changed my username to XX Bestie Forever XX. And that was my username on TikTok. I swear to God, my best man, like at my wedding, sent me a photo. He's like, "Hey, are you aware that this is your TikTok username?" And I was like, actually, it was. I just changed it literally yesterday morning. I'm like, I finally was freaking able to change it. So until then, I wasn't posting any content because I'm like, I want Paul Barron or like Brandon Young or Adam Heiss coming to my profile and seeing XX Bestie Forever XX. So now that I got it changed back, I'll start posting some more content, hopefully valuable. And I actually posted a video yesterday with you guys in it. I was like top.
Yeah, man, I saw it. Thank you.
Yeah.
For sure. Which, by the way, and I meant to mention this as well. It's perfect as we're wrapping up. First of all, thank you guys so much for your time. This has been super insightful. You guys are so sharp. Love your energy as well. So thankful to have you guys on this channel, and I really hope that everyone watching this sees the value of what you guys have shared. This is really, really powerful, and it can really like completely shift a lot of people's businesses. So really appreciate that. And yeah, like I said, you guys have phenomenal. I've started watching some of your videos, at least on YouTube, and I see you guys on Twitter and everything, which you're super active. Really great content. I mean, you guys got a sample of it right here. So guys, so for everyone who wants to learn more about you and kind of subscribe and everything, where's the best place to kind of learn more about you?
I mean, I guess obviously watching this on YouTube. So YouTube, The Honest Entrepreneurs, and then Twitter. So I guess you can put the links in the description, but we're mainly active on YouTube and Twitter as well. So
his Twitter is at Tom's best friend forever. XX. No, it's at the Alex D and at the Honest Tom. With a couple of underscores in between each word. But yeah, we'll send you the links for down below.
Perfect. Yep. We'll definitely, everything they have, we'll link those in the description for easy access. We'll also try to find a way to edit and put some of those usernames up on the screen. But yeah, I follow them. You guys should definitely follow them. They've been amazing. Alex and Tom, thank you guys again so much. I hope if you guys weren't too winded by this one, maybe some point in the future, have you guys back on because this was just so wonderful.
For sure.
100%.
For sure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you guys as well.